Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday I played in the semi-finals of the I Am Not a GM Speed Chess Championship on Chess.com. I was matched up with international master Greg Shahade from the United States, and the winner would move on to face Roberto Molina from Brazil. Greg is a legend in chess. If you don't know him, he's the founder of the US Chess School. He trains a ton of really talented juniors, and he's also the founder of the Pro Chess League, formerly known as the United States Chess League. He's also extremely buff, and so I'm very happy this was just an online chess match and not a chess boxing match. In this video, I'm going to take you through the entire story of the match and show you 5 games, some that I won, some that I lost, and at the end, I will include a segment of how I prepared for this match, and hopefully those will be useful tools for you if any of you play in tournaments. Let's go! So I actually won the first game of the match, and this will take us to the second game, which is 5-minute blitz with 1 second bonus time. I've got the white pieces, and I begin the game with e4. Now, I know Greg likes to play e5. He's a very consistent opening player. Knight c3, knight f6, and those of you that know me know that in this position I will almost always go for the Vienna Gambit, but not if my opponent has a ton of time to prepare for it. That's the thing. The Vienna Gambit is equal with best play. Spoiler alert, by the way. Sorry, shocking, but I decided to play this because when I checked the database, I knew that Greg would reach this position. And here, if you have my Vienna or my e4 course, you know that my move is f4, but I prepared a new idea, bishop g5. This is actually a move I have literally never played, and I knew, according to Greg's database, that he's played this like once ever. So we would be in totally fresh territory. I was expecting h6, bishop h4, g5, bishop g3, and then I would go h4. But Greg played this move, which wasn't surprising. I reviewed it prior, not from his own games, and I played knight e2 rather than traditionally developing knight to f3. Why? Because I know that in Vienna positions, you like to play the move f4, so my plan was to castle, f4, and trade. And that is exactly what I did. I put my knight in the middle, then I played castles, and then I played a3. Why would I play a3? What does this do? Because I want to hide my bishop. So it's I know that in these positions, knight a5 hits my bishop, so I know that a3 is very good. And he castles. And here I was like, all right, well now is the culmination of my whole opening plan, c3, followed by f4. And the reason I played c3 is because when he takes this bishop, you know, it would be open, and I didn't want him to hit my pieces there. So he took, and I took back. And here white is already doing very well. He trades bishop for knight. Here I take with the bishop, and now I'm pinning the pawn to the king, so I'm threatening knight takes. He plays king to h7, and I bring in my queen to g4. Even though I'm voluntarily walking into this knight attack, because now I just slide back 1 square. If bishop to h4, I have queen h3, and he plays the move c6. Now, at this point, I actually thought I blundered. Because I allowed queen b6, which would have come with the check, but it turns out that it's not a blunder at all, because queen b6, I play rook f2, and he can't take me, and my pawn is protected. He goes here, I slide my queen over, and he plays bishop g5. At this point, I realized, what about d4? Where's his knight going? His knight has to go back. Now here I spent a lot of time, and I actually missed an absolutely beautiful win. This whole video is going to have amazing tactics. I spent a lot of time looking at bishop takes f7, but I didn't realize why it was so good. This is why you always look for captures. And the most forcing move. So bishop f7, he takes, and now I can play knight e6, which is what I missed. I missed this move. During the game, I was like, I don't understand why this is so good. I'm hitting the queen and the bishop and the rook. But what happens if the rook takes, and then I take, and then this? Well, here's what I missed. I missed that in this position, I have check. Beautiful. This is called an attraction tactic. You attract the piece to a square, it stops guarding the bishop, I take, and now it's a fork of king and queen, and because of the pin. So I actually did everything right. I set up everything beautifully, but I missed this knockout punch. Instead, I slow played the position. And, you know, I just brought my knight back, then I brought my rook, then I moved my queen out of the way, then I advanced my king and my pawn, and I wanted to play h4. And then here I did something smart as well. I played e5. You know, I've got this very well protected, so I slow played. And then when the pawn went here, I was like, I don't like that my bishop is blocking, you know, biting into this. So let's drop the bishop back, bishop b1. The dark squared bishop is counteracted by 7 dark squared pawns. Isn't that amazing? 7 dark squared pawns. It's called a dark squared complex, which means my light squared bishop, the second my knight moves, is going to be activated. And so I play knight to f4. He trades, and I brought my king back to h1 to mobilize again. Now, at this point, the game gets a little bit wild. I double up, and I bring all my pieces in, and it looks like I have a knockout punch, but not quite. I didn't really know what to do. I was just kind of improving my position. We both got super low on time, and white is completely winning here. But I allowed his knight in, which was bad, and then he did this, and then accidentally got his knight trapped. His knight is just completely stuck. And then, you know, he goes back, and then I take, and then he plays rook c8, and I'm like, whoa, and then I play this move, which is surprisingly just a blunder of a rook, but is somehow still winning after rook g5. And it's winning after rook g5, and I look like a genius because he can't actually check me at all. And if he takes, I go here, king h7, and this knockout punch. Not to mention mate, actually, never mind. Mate in 1 is better than winning a queen. So, the attack was slow played, and ultimately we had about a second each on the clock, but I was able to win this game, and I took a 2-0 lead. But now we're going to fast forward in a spot in the match where it's 2-2. So, Greg actually strikes back with 2 wins in a row, and I'm going to take you to this game, where I had the black pieces. Now, this was actually a very, very tense game. It was a Caro-Kann. And, Greg surprised me with this exchange variation. Normally, Greg plays the 2 knights Caro-Kann, which I will show you afterward, right? And meaning I'll show you that I knew that from preparation. And I mixed it up with this g6 variation. I'm a big fan of this, and I like to put my knight on h6. This is one unique way to play the exchange Caro-Kann. And then basically what you do is you rotate your knight back to d6. It's a very non-standard position. And you try to build up for, this in the center and trade off white's light squared bishop, because white's light squared bishop is very strong. Now, Greg plays knight to b3. I stab that with pawn to b6. He plays knight back to c1. He wants to go knight d3. I want to go e5. He wants to stop me from going e5. And then I looked around at this point and I went, well, I can't go e5, so why don't I go g5? And that's the top engine move, supported by the computer. You advance on the same side of the board, and you play g4. I'm always looking for a fight, not in the street, because someone will kick my ass, but on a chessboard, right? So e6, and Greg rotates the knight back. I'm like, wait a minute, can't I take? And I'm like, wait, can't I sack my knight and then take the rook because it's a fork? So I'm going to get a rook and 2 pawns for 2 knights, and then I'm just going to mobilize and throw my pawns down the board. And when I did that, I realized, wait a minute, when he takes back, he's attacking my h5 pawn. And I made the mental decision, I gotta guard my pawn. But actually, when I blitzed out this move, I realized he has a very critical pawn break, stopping me from going e5. If he just waits and lets me do this, black is just much better. Black has this massive center, I'm gonna go here, here. But he plays f4, and I'm like, uh-oh. And then, now he gets to plant that knight. That's the most annoying thing, is he plants his knight, very well protected. I sacrifice my pawn anyway to activate my rook and kind of try to, get under the skin here, attack his knight, maybe give my rook away for both knights. Here, Greg didn't like my rook, and he played rook d1. And the idea of rook d1 is that if I take, he takes back with the queen, he's very happy. And I was sitting here, and I was like, wait a minute. Oh my god. There's a move here that just wins. Try to find it. I'll give you a few seconds. I don't have any water, actually. I can't even drink any water. Look at this move. This is called interference. G4! Ooh! And the point is that if he takes my rook, I take his queen. But if he takes my queen, Zwischenzug, in-between move, rook takes rook check. The queen no longer guards the rook, and the queen cannot come back because I have 2 rooks covering. And ultimately, he took my queen, and that's exactly what happened. I went here, and some moves later, I ended up winning the game. And with that, I took a 3-2 lead. That was a very nice idea, g4. Very beautiful move, just kind of showing the coordination of all the pieces. But now, I'm going to show you the next game, literally the next game. I begin with knight c3, and why I began with knight c3? Well, Greg played c5 in the last game, so I'm like, okay, he's going to play the Sicilian, or he's going to play e5, and we'll have the same thing. He does this, we play a Sicilian, and I play an early d4. So I'm like hype. I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. I just hit him with g4. I'm so good. I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to play some weird Sicilian. And it was a weird Sicilian. I got my queen out of the way. He offered me a trade of queens. I rejected it and attacked his bishop. And here I was really hyped because, I had just won a beautiful game. Like, I'm going to take his head off. I got no respect for him. I play f5. And then here, Greg plays d5. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I played f5, and my logic was that after this, I'm not going to take back. I'm going to go here. I'm just going to go attack his king. Queen g5, bang, bang, bang. He plays d5. I'm like, uh-oh. All right, well, let me take. And I don't really want to take this because the knight's going to come in, and that looks kind of scary. And I just played this move. And I was like, wait a second. He just has d4. Okay, I could take, but then he's going to take, and he's threatening mate. That doesn't look very good. So I played this. He attacked my knight, and I played b3. And I was really worried here. I thought that after bishop f6, queen a4, he's got a huge attack. Except I'm an idiot. I can just play a3. I only looked at king b1 for some reason. And if king b1, knight b4, he hits both pawns and it's bye-bye. But I don't know why I didn't just play a3. I was too hyped from the last game, and Greg immediately just moved his knight out of the way. And then here I played bishop back. He moved his queen, I attacked his knight. He went here, and I was like, all right, come and get me. Except, I saw this. I was like, not a problem, I got queen g5. If f6, queen g6. And Greg was like, well, all I gotta do is guard this, and your queen's trapped. Look at that. Look at that absolutely disgusting queen trap, f6. Now here I thought I was really fancy. Look, I played h4, f6, knight f3. I was like, yo, if he takes my queen, I'm gonna take, and he's gonna go here, and then I'm gonna check him, and it's almost mate, and there's nothing. There's nothing, even though I made him take my queen, and I got this. He could just block, but instead Greg sacked the queen back to be extra fancy, and now Greg is just up a piece. And I made it scary for just the move. In this position, I actually set a trap. If Greg had played knight to e2, forking my king and my rook, I would have went king d1, and then if he took my rook, I would have mated him. So somehow I got it to within a move of checkmate, but Greg is a good player, and yeah, I just got obliterated. He just completely killed me. And with that, he took a 3... Well, he didn't take a 3-3 lead, tied the match at 3-3. Not only that, he actually won the next 2 games. So he's up 4-3 now. So it's a very back-and-forth match. I take the lead, he takes the lead, blah, blah, blah. This next game is the first game of the 3+1. Yeah, it's a pretty crazy game. So I knew that Greg plays d4, knight f6, and against c4, he will play the Grunfeld defense. And I also knew that against this variation, which is in my London course, link is in the description below, www.gotham-chess.com, opening repertoire. Make sure to sign up for the email list and get permanent 15% off. Anyway, that plug aside, I knew that if I played this early h4 idea, he was going to play this, and then he was going to play like this. Now, how did I know that? I saw that he had a game in the database, but I prepared bishop d3, queen e2, knight f3, and actually, so did Eric Rosen. I spoke to Eric Rosen before the match, and he and I looked at the exact same line, which is pretty funny. And the idea is that what you do is you play this like this, and you try to push e4, which is not usually how this gets played, right? So I, played knight to e5, and Greg plays like this. I knew all of that. I knew all of that from studying his games, but here I was on my own. Here I was completely on my own. I just knew I would get to this position. And here, Greg took... And I was like, okay, well, I want to take with the knight. That's very natural. But if I take with the bishop, I'm threatening d5. I want to keep pushing in. Even if he hits my bishop. Let's go. Bang. He took, and then played queen b6. I'm looking at the position. I'm like, all right, well, very natural move. Rook here. Maybe queen up. Queen c3 is good. Maybe f3, g4. And then I went, wait. Checks captures attacks. I got no checks. Taking this is stupid. Taking that is stupid. Taking that is stupid. But what about this? Bishop takes g6. If king takes, rook g5 is check. Then it's mate. If bishop takes, queen takes, rook g5 pins the queen to the king. If bishop g6, pawn takes, queen e7. Aren't I mating him? And I played this move. And chess.com called this a brilliant move. I got the legendary double blue exclamation mark. And he played here. I took here, rook e1. A quiet move, just adding another attacking piece. The idea is queen g5 and rook e7. The best computer move. Here I played check. Here I actually blundered. In this position, I got too low on time, and I played this move. This move is winning because I target his rook. I force his rook to make a decision. Take, and then I will get in, and I will checkmate. But Greg also was under tremendous pressure. He played this, and now I infiltrate with my queen. He goes to g8. If he goes here, it's check and mate. But regardless, it's also check, and mate anyway. This game I played at 99%, according to the cap score, despite my one slip up. And now it's 4-4. But we're going to fast forward way later to when Greg is up 6.5, 5.5, and this was a turning point in the match. This next game that I'm going to show you, turning point in the match. 6.5, 5.5. This is the second to last 3+1 game, so there's one more after this, okay? It's a Caro-Kann. Greg goes back to playing his two knights. I start playing my a6 variation. I know a lot of different lines here. Greg and I have played this before. Now, the position from the opening is always a little bit better for white, and I'm always a little bit passive. Like, I've traded off my bishop, I have all these pawns on the light squares, and you'll notice, watch what my dark squared bishop does. It does a dance. It kind of dances around. I try to trade his dark squared bishop. He doesn't want to. I go knight b4. I do trade it, and then I play h5, and then this, and I kick his queen out, and then I go here, and my logic was like, I'm going to go here, you know, queen g3. I play bishop h6, and I control the whole diagonal. I'm super happy, and then I'm going to go rook c8. Rook d1. Now I'm sitting here during the game. I'm like, okay, I got a couple of ideas. I want to go here. Maybe I want to go here and hide my king. So I touch my king. I'm looking at, I'm looking like I want to go. I like did this. I like dragged it. I'm like, wait a minute. Let me think. And then I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going to play rook c8. Rook c8's the better move. So I go to touch my rook and drag it over. And then this happens. Right? Not that. But I touch my king. I go to touch my rook. And I long castle. I long castle. Because I touch my king and then I touch my rook. Rather than... And I have drag and drop enabled. Tragedy. This is a losing move. Believe it or not, this move loses the game. I was so angry. I was so mad at this point. It was... And why does it lose? It loses because... b4. King b8. a4. a5. Like, I can't stop his attack. Castling that way just loses the game, and he completely destroys me. I mean, he just completely kills me, comes in, and at this point, I lost on time, but it's also just completely lost because I can't move anything. I mean, he's just gonna come in with a7, rook a3, blah, 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 bishop b5, it's game over, rook b6. Now I'm down 2 games. And the worst part is, in the next game, I was so angry, I played so badly, Greg was up 3. Okay, Greg was up 3 points. Okay, imagine that. The man is up 3 points. But it gets worse. Because when the bullet section started, he won the first game. He actually won the first game of the bullet section. So he was up 4! He was up 9.5, 5.5. And for the remainder of the match, I'm going to take you through the journey. This was the last game that Greg won. Suddenly, I found it within me to win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bullet games. Some of these games I don't even want to analyze. They were just too chaotic. And ultimately, Greg won the last game, but I won the match 13.5 to 10.5. And, you know, the craziest thing about this kind of event and this format is Bullet has a way of just totally getting away from you, right? For some reason, when I have a lot less time to think, I play better. Like, people are always joking that I play better when I have 3 seconds on my clock. And that's just because I don't have time to doubt myself. My biggest problem is that you give me too much time. I'm going to look at the board. I'm going to start looking at things I shouldn't, you know, blah, blah, blah. In Bullet, there's no time for that. So I just play on instinct. I complicate the position and I create tactical possibilities where they exist. And I won the match, and I move on to face Roberto Molina actually tomorrow. It's March 9th at the time I'm recording this video. That match is going to happen tomorrow at March 10th. And then, you know, at the end, I told you all that I would go show you how I prepared, right? Well, this is how I prepared. I did the usual. I went to openingtree.com, Greg Shahade. I filtered it, you know, by the color of the piece. And these are his openings with the black pieces over the past year. I knew that against e4, e5, we would see this. See? We're looking at the sample size here. Here, d3, bishop c5. See, 1 game ever that he ever played in this line. Right? And so I prepared it. If we go back to his d4 games, d4, knight f6, c4. Look, how many times does he play the Grunfeld? 100 games. So I wanted to avoid the Grunfeld. Instead, I was thinking to go for bishop f4. Now, I play the Trompowsky, but I knew that he would play this line, and this line is not bad against the Trompowsky, and I didn't want to face this line. And so we go to, lastly, the London system, the opening that I played toward the end of this match. And you see in the database how every game he plays the same way. This allowed me to, and see, look, you see how there's no games of bishop d3? That gave me the confidence right? Oh, now it goes back. Are these our games? Oh no, these are older games. So I guess there was a transposition, is what that's called. This gave me the oh, but see, nobody played Queen E2. Did anybody play Queen E2? Nobody played Queen E2. So my prep that I came up with before the match was actually very useful because it gave him a kind of position and a new way of playing the position that he had never seen before. And I wanted to kind of, you know, keep him on his toes and fighting. And I got some beautiful games like doing that. So, listen, y'all, as always, appreciate all of your continued support. I'm gonna edit like very few parts of this video. We'll just do the rest, you know, the last like 15 minutes in one take. Thank you as always. If you made it this far in the video, you're amazing. Give the video a thumbs up, leave a nice comment, and I will see you in the next one. Gotham YouTube is back, baby.